4 years ago today, I played my first ever game of Dungeons and Dragons. And I didn't know it at the time, but that decision would end up saving my life. And it's always funny to say that just because it's a game about using your imagination to pretend to be an elf and shoot fire from your hands. But it's true. Playing this game, being a part of the tabletop community in general, has changed the trajectory of my life. And I'm forever grateful for it. And if you've watched me for any length of time, I hope that the lesson that you can take away from my life is that it doesn't matter how dark things may seem. It's never too late to start telling your story. Because there were so many times over these last 4 years and even prior where I had just completely given up and wanted to fully check out of life. But telling stories with people I love and care about lit a spark within me and reminded me that my voice, my experience, my presence, it matters. And that just because for the simple fact that I exist, I matter. And I hope you take that lesson from everything that I've been able to do with my platform and the videos that I've created, whatever. I hope that's the lesson you can get out of it. That you matter. And it's never too late to start telling your story. And so I just wanted to sit here for a little bit and tell you about that journey. Because this year has been it is genuinely surreal how full circle my life has been this year. From meeting the people who inspired me to start this journey to begin with, to meeting so many of you in person and telling me about your experiences and connecting with all of you. It's been so hard to process, and I think that's been what makes this video so hard to make, because I'm just so taken aback and grateful for a life that I didn't think I'd ever have the chance to live. But I'm here. And I'm glad that I am. So where does this all start? Well, it starts in the pandemic. Everyone's favorite time. And at that time, I was lost in the miasma of lockdown depression, which is really an extension of my own battles with mental health that I've had ever since I was an adolescent. But I'm sitting there lost in this deep, dark feeling of everything that I'm going through. And I'm scrolling on Twitch, just on a Thursday night, looking for something to watch. I think a Maximilian Dude stream just ended or something like that. And then I see the stream pop up. And I was like, oh, that's that. I think that's that show that's got a few voice actors I know. Like, oh, wait, okay, yeah, I know that guy. I know her. I know him. Okay, cool. Oh, wow. And I'm watching an episode of Critical Role for the first time. And it's the one where Avantika comes back. Spoiler alert for campaign 2. And everyone's freaking out. Everyone's like, oh my gosh. And I'm like, what is going on? Why is everyone so invested in this? It's just nothing's moving. It's just a little toy ship and some little miniatures, but everyone's so invested. Why am I so invested? I don't even know what's going on, but everyone's treating it like it's real. I realize it's Dungeons and Dragons. And I'm like, okay, fine. I will go on YouTube and find episode 1 of campaign 2 and see what the show is about, because my best friend keeps telling me that we should totally play Dungeons and Dragons. And I'm like, yeah, sure, I'll get into it. So I go and watch episode 1. And that's where it begins. I'm just so in awe. And I can't stop listening to it, watching it. I'm watching it so much that by the time I finish watching all of the episodes that were available for campaign 2, it was the very same week that the finale came out. That the finale came out for campaign 2 the same week that I had finished catching up, and I got to watch my first ever episode of it live with everyone else watching the campaign 2 finale. Forever was like 8-9 hours long. So I do that. And then I was just like, oh, I gotta dive in on all this. Like, I'm watching Dungeon Dudes. I'm watching Ginny D. I'm watching, I think D4 Deep Dive had just started around that time too, or around that time as well. Diving in on everything, trying to learn everything I can about this because I'm just so obsessed with it. We fast forward to 2021, and around this time, that's when we had the New Year's Eve party with my best friend Thurman and his partner Cass. And we're sitting there talking, and I'm talking about how, I've finally gotten into Dungeons and Dragons like he'd been suggesting. And then I say, hey, we don't really have any plans tonight. Why don't we try playing a game? So that's what we ended up doing. We ended up playing our first game. We're using bottle caps as NPCs. We're using remotes as buildings. Scuffed, absolutely scuffed game. I got pictures of it and all that stuff, but just doing whatever we can to rig together a little session taking place in Exandria. And we played. And I was the GM, and I loved it. I got to sit there and tell this story, weave this tale with my wife and my friends. And it was incredible. That feeling of being there and sharing and creating a story in real time with everyone. And we would play whenever we can, because we live in different states. So it's only getting to play when we travel to see each other, our little groups. And over the next year or two, I'm loving D&D. It's my thing. It's the thing I love doing and playing with my friends. But also during that time, it is during one of the darkest periods of my life, where I'm struggling the heaviest with my mental health. I am, because of the pandemic, unable to find a job with my degree. Shout out to Mass Comm. A useless ass degree. But I'm sitting there, and I eventually, everything just keeps going wrong in my life. Every single job interview, it's a no. Hundreds of applications put in, all denied. Everything just keeps going wrong while trying to build this family and keep my head above water, working whatever gig jobs I can. Eventually, college degree, graduated with all the magna balabas, the summa cum laude, whatever. All this stuff in my degree, but then there I am years later after graduating, and I'm there scrubbing toilets as a custodian, And I mean, no offense to anyone in the profession, but it was just, this wasn't what I had envisioned. And it especially wasn't what my family went into debt for, taking out so many loans me going into debt and taking out so many loans so that I could have different job prospects, you know? But it was all I had. It's the only thing I had available to me. And I was just so miserable every single day. I just felt drained and I felt like a husk of who I was. And I just felt empty. And my wife, she could see it. Taylor could see it. And I know it hurt and ate away at her to see all of this. But she knew that the one thing at least that would put something of a twinkle in my eye was talking about Dungeons and Dragons. So my wife says to me, oh, honey, why don't you try uploading a video onto TikTok? You know, it's a platform where you don't have to do what you're doing prior when you're doing content creation years ago, where you have to do like a fully edited video and all that sort of stuff. It can be quick. It can be off the cuff, just something you make quickly in your free time and just upload it and see what happens. And I'm pushing back going, yeah, sure. Yeah, sure. Yeah. But one day I end up posting. Funnily enough, my first ever post was a stitch of a post by Azim, who's now a mutual of mine that I've, played games with and seen in person years later. But at the time, made my first post. Made a post about Wiley, I think, and like D&D skits about Wiley, my dog, being like a druid in disguise or something like that. But I'm sitting there and I'm at the point where I'm making these little videos at this job. And these videos are starting to blow up. Specifically, the one that starts blowing up is the Montgomery Brawl happened at the waterfront in Montgomery. And I started making D&D builds for all the people who were beating up the racist people. And those videos were my first ever videos that blew up. That went viral, And I didn't even know that it happened. I was just making videos for the fun of it and just talking about D&D because I liked it. And talking about it and making little videos about it brought me joy. And then I make that video, that first build video for it. I make it at work. Make that video on my little lunch break. Put my phone in my pocket. Go back to scrubbing toilets and taking out trash. I go home, wake up the next day. And I was like, 50,000 views. 60,000 views. What's going on? And I started to find community. I started to feel creative again. I started to feel this creativity that I had lost for so long. And just making little skits and all that sort of stuff. And eventually, things happen in the world, October 7th. And this little platform that I had built, I started using it to be able to do advocacy and discussing things like Palestine and what's happening in the world. Even when my platform was only it was like 3,000 followers or something like that. Boy, it was my account almost terminated a few times for speaking on political stuff, right? But that's what I just did because it felt right and was on my heart, and being able to talk about race and its interpretation in D&D, and being able to talk about advocacy stuff and being able to talk about whatever I wanted and interested me and creatively fulfilled me was great. And it truly helped keep me going. And then over the years, that has just snowballed into what it is now. But that's always been at the core of what I've been doing, is just expressing myself. And that creating videos has always been that for me, is the ability to express myself and to go on that journey. So to be here in 2025, to have gone to PAX Unplug because of the community, because people who have admired my work or have seen me in my videos wanted to get me to certain places because they believed in me, helped crowdfund to get me and my wife to PAX Unplugged this year. I got to meet every single person who helped inspire me, almost everyone. I got to meet, Colby from D4 Deep Dive. I got to meet Kelly from Dungeon Dudes. I got to meet Ted from Nerd Immersion, right? I got to meet all of my friends that I had made along the way and all the mutuals that I made along the way. I got to meet my friend Justin, who casted me in my first ever actual play. And my friend Meadow and Mare and Kelly and Cujo and Johnny, everyone who's a part of the Bitten crew. I got to meet the Darrington Press team and so many members of the team who created this game that I've fallen in love with. I got to meet Matthew Mercer, the guy who created the thing, which is why I'm here right now. In so many different ways of that phrasing. And I never said any of that when I met him. I was just like, so many things were going through my mind of what his work has meant to me and what the world he had created had meant to me. But all I could say when I met him was, "Hey, I played the Blood Hunter on the Darrington Press YouTube channel. That class is good." That's all I can get out. There was no eloquent statement. There was no trauma dump. There's no pouring my heart. I was just like, God, dude, I did a thing on the channel. The Blood Hunter is cool. None of this was none of this part of the story was there. But it didn't need to be said. Just being there in that moment was enough. But that's what I meant by full circle. To have met so many of these people, or the reason I started this journey, to have met Azim in person, and he doesn't even know this, but one of his videos was the things I had first stitched and inspired me to make my idea for my first TikTok. All this has been more than I ever could have bargained for. So I'm just grateful to be here. And I'm so excited for what the future holds. And I hope that in hearing this story, that someone here listening will feel inspired to say, you know what? I'm just going to hit record. I'm going to get my friends together. We're going to do that thing. I'm going to write that book I've always wanted to, that manuscript, that screenplay, make that short film. Do it. Do it. And I'm not saying to do it for what accolades might come or opportunities or monetary gain. I'm not saying it for that. I'm saying do it because it's good for your heart. It's good for your mind. It's good for your spirit, if you want to say that. It's good for you emotionally and mentally to create, especially in times where everything around you just wants to break you down and pull you apart and destroy you. Okay? Don't give in to despair. It is so easy to. You can find a spark in places where you least expect it. Never in a million years would I have guessed that it would be in playing Dungeons and Dragons or Daggerheart or any tabletop game in general. This was not the trajectory that I had planned for my life. But you know, the best laid plans of mice and men often go awry, but also too, that comes from a place for me of desperation. Because I have a family that I have to think about and take care of. So when things did not go as planned, I was devastated. Because there are so many people in my life who are depending on me to provide in ways that I just couldn't, in ways that I still don't feel like I want to, you know? But I have learned through all this to let go in certain places of certain things that you can't control and learn to embrace new paths when old ones start to fall apart, and not to just sit there and wallow in the self-pity of the life or mourn the life that you never got to live. Because staying there in that moment will stop you from embracing and appreciating what you have right now and what it could be tomorrow. Well, that's it, everyone. That's all I've got to say. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. Thank you. My name is Daniel K. Hargrove. I go by Daniel the DM. I'll see you all next time. Until then, be kind to yourself and be kind to others. Peace.